Ahead and start. It is 6:30. So the item we have on the agenda for the work session is Code of Business Conduct. If you remember, this was referred to personnel and way back in March, I believe, and hasn't been dealt with, so I'm bringing it back here. I did check with Terry and made sure it was okay that we brought it back here, and so would really like Doug just to, well, Paul's not here. I know he's the one who has questions, so like Doug to kind of discuss how he came about this policy, his research, his thinking, and then we can talk about questions that people might have.
So when this document was created, it looked at other cities and how they view their code of business conduct, and as public servants, it is essential that we avoid conflicts of interest at all times. Fairfield being a small community, that can be a challenge. And so it is not, I can tell you that a lot of city employees may have second jobs. You know, I can tell you for 20 years as a public servant, I had 2 jobs. And some of those jobs could potentially be used as a subcontractor for the city. And, you know, those sorts of things in some capacity can be okay. However, those things need to be declared. And actually, our auditors have asked us if there are conflicts and if we have employees that have separate businesses, and what are they, and does the city utilize those businesses. Secondly, it's about behavior. We have a lot of the things that are in the Code of Business Conduct that I've created that are already in the personnel manual that the council has already adopted, but that brings all of these things to the forefront, because all of these things not only apply to city employees, but they apply to the governing body as well. And so we were just having this discussion that the police chief and the mayor and I were talking about, that Councilman Gandy had said, you know, why is domestic violence brought out and brought into the Code of Business Conduct? And one of those reasons, and he's not here, and we can talk about this further.
Sir, he's in the restroom.
Oh, I can wait. But I don't know whether I can pause or carry on that thought.
I have a comment about the conflict of interest.
Sure.
So I've done a lot of grant writing, and you frequently run into conflicts of interest with Rotary Club members who want to provide services or goods, maybe at cost for a project. So the standard there was you just have to reveal the conflict of interest. You don't have to avoid the conflict of interest. You just have to reveal it. So is that the same standard that you're using?
Very much so. And so, for instance, with the council, when they need to abstain from a vote because they have a business that might be associated with the council action, they abstain, and then they make a statement as to why they abstain and why they need to step back. It is okay to declare the fact that this thing is an issue and it could sway their vote, so they step back. And that's perfectly fine. And it's the same thing with employees. Let's just say that we have an employee that has a mowing business on the side, and a lot of them do. And I can tell you that most fire departments actually, you know, they're 3 on, 4 off, 4 on, 3 off. And so they have a secondary job, and a lot of them are mowing services or tree businesses, or they might be a concrete contractor, what have you. And somebody may say, I know that city employee, they're, you know, are they using a city mower to mow yards or what have you? And they're they're not, and they're declaring, I have this mowing business, and we're not using them to, we have a bid for mowing yards, and we're contracting these people, they have to step back and say, I can't because I work for the city, so they're not going out and making a bunch of extra money. So it's just kind of, we're always under the crosshairs, we're always under the microscope of making sure that we're doing the right things, and this makes sure that we are there, and then we can address some of Councilman Gandy's points that we need to revisit, and I can circle back to item 9 and as to why we have domestic violence in there and why that's important. And so by Iowa law, the city cannot have a blanket policy that we cannot hire somebody that's been convicted of a felony. But we can say that they are not, that if they have a said felony and they've disclosed that, and let's say that, they've been convicted of felony larceny, and the police department's not going to hire that person because you don't necessarily want a bank robber working as a police officer. So that wouldn't fit, but something that we would consider. And for the domestic violence piece is that you may not be able to control yourself emotionally and could be physically abusive, and that we have somebody that comes in and this happens on a daily, weekly basis, and they're upset about the utility bill, and they start on a rant, and then somebody loses their emotional composure, and all of a sudden that we have assault convictions, and we've hired those people. So it's something that we absolutely, or they're out in the field and somebody's upset because the city's doing something and they don't want to, and then all of a sudden there's a fist fight that ensues that is not representative of a public servant. So that's why that's in there. Can those things be deleted? Can this be changed? Absolutely it can. Just tell me what you would like, and if you don't want to have this document in front of you, then we can absolutely, I was asked to draft this, I did draft this, and I compared it with other cities and used some of their language and used some of my own language and some of my research, and it can be changed in any matter of fashion that you like, and if you like just what's in the handbook, we can go that way. I absolutely think that it is important that, if we've got, and I had this discussion the other day, that our fire department, that they do rental inspections. It's required. But some of those firemen may actually have rental properties. Well, it would be against our policy for a fireman to inspect his own rental property. So we would have to, if we know about it, then what we do is have a different fireman go in and inspect that rental property so that we avoid that conflict. Those sorts of things that we need to bring, because we're trying to develop a piece of trust for the citizens. We're always building on that. We're always trying to work on that. So that's why we're here.
What questions do you have?
I was skimming it, Doug, and I was looking at what the process is for someone to file a complaint against a municipal representative. Can you review again what that process is?
If there's an issue with a city employee, they can come in. I believe that there's a complaint form up front. Yes or no?
No.
We don't even have that in place.
No.
Typically, the mayor just gets a phone call,
Yes.
or I get a phone call.
Yes.
But here you do talk about a written complaint containing a statement signed by a person.
Or the number?
It's M, H-I-J-K-L. L, it's under L on page, I don't know what page that is.
L.
Page 3?
See page
LM,
5?
verified complaint.
Oh, okay.
I see it on page 3 of 8.
It's definition.
I see page 5, 3, enforcement, A, complaints. Is that right?
Page 5. Complaints. Enforcement 3A. Verified complaint. In writing, signed by someone with a personal knowledge of facts, giving rise to a complaint which states the name of any person alleged to have committed a violation of the code. And so we would put those things in place because we still have not. Another piece of this would be that the same way with the conflicts, that we would have a form that we would pass out to employees. Do you have a business? What is it? Here it is. And it's the same thing with this.
Okay. Does municipal representatives include city council members? So I'm looking at, consider that point, but also point F, I believe, page 4. You highlighted this point. Municipal representatives shall disclose any conflicts or potential conflicts with the city of Fairfield, and failure to do so may be cause for discipline or termination of that help position. That includes city council members?
That would be a vote of the council. The only people that can remove a council member would be the council.
May be cause for discipline or termination. That means a council member can be disciplined by the city council.
Yes.
The mayor, does that include the mayor as well?
Yeah, and I believe Mr. Morrissey would be able to speak to that. But yes, because we have the ombudsman for ethics violations. Is that correct, John?
Yeah.
So
We can consider them ourselves.
Who determines whether or not there is a conflict of interest or a potential conflict?
that would be the ombudsman.
Who's that?
Who's the state ombudsman right
Yes.
now?
Oh, so there's a complaint. First of all, how do you get to the point where there's a complaint? Somebody files or there's a conflict. Does somebody file a complaint?
Yeah, and so people have filed complaints with the ombudsman before, even since I've been here, and then those are investigated.
By
Them particularly
by the state.
okay.
by the state.
And they do what with that investigation?
Lots of emails. I'm not sure. We had to provide lots of information, and they'll give a written recommendation a lot of times.
To whom?
They give it to Doug and I.
And then we present those to council.
We've been investigated several times. Sorry to sneak up on you. If there's any concerns, it's then referred to the Attorney General's office as an impartial, and the DCI, and then we'll come in and make sure there's no ethical or criminal violation for more serious violations. Their main job as the ombudsman is to make sure government is doing it correctly and not charge citizens that challenge it per se, at least initially, to make sure, like anytime we don't release public information to the media or public, they can appeal to the ombudsman's office, and they'll thoroughly investigate it. If there's any concern, then they refer to the Attorney General's office.
I guess my concern is that this provision is not misused. It says misuse of position. I just hope that this provision is not misused against someone in a position. Suppose they do something that people don't agree with, or some faction or some group does not agree with, and it's within their rights as a municipal representative to make that decision. But a group decides to file a complaint, not because they did something which they're not allowed to or beyond their role or scope, but because they don't like it and they want to cause trouble.
That already happens.
It already happens?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not like it's giving people permission. They already do it.
Yeah, it's bringing it to light, and it's not new, and it's usually when these complaints come through, they get to the bottom of it pretty quickly, and they understand the difference between some nefarious illegal behavior versus I didn't like what they said, so I'm going to make something up. This happens a lot.
Do we need an actual form that asks for dates and the date they signed it and the signature, and, or we would just tell somebody that they need to include those things, or,
I mean,
I
if
don't
we're
know.
gonna have a formal complaint process, I think it might be beneficial to have a form.
Yeah.
If
That's what we're gonna
it
do.
helps, we have an official form. Citizens don't want to fill it out. We try to make it as easy as possible, and that's why we kind of like the ombudsman's office. It's another step before they sue us in court. Usually that's what we tell them, talk to an attorney about suing us. The ombudsman's office looks at it impartially and fairly, and they know all the state laws. So we've got to the point where we're not using art at all. I just ask people to either email it or call me and leave me a voice message. I mean, it's a recorded line. So I know what the specific complaint is. Email is even better. People have time to sit at home. Not to interrupt, but we did away with our complaint form because nobody felt comfortable with filling it out. It was very old-fashioned and kind of specifically, you know, what are you accusing our officer or dispatcher of? And so that's what kind of, nobody liked it, so we got away with it.
So they want to just write it longhand?
Mostly they either want to call and talk to you, or email now seems to be the huge thing. They want to email, and that's great. I can specifically then reference back, you know, there's no confusion. There will be, but they say, well, I was also upset about this. Well, it's not in your email. And I specifically say, what is, you know, what are all your concerns? Make sure it's an email form if they prefer. So they have more time to.
And they usually leave a phone number so you can call back and verify it's them somehow?
Yes, we treat it like an investigation. We have, we offer to contact them again, and we have 7 different listings. It's either founded, unfounded. We have one that's for policies. The officers were doing it right, but we've changed the policy kind of thing. And we send it back to them. We also let them know that due to employee confidentiality laws under federal, we can only tell you founded, unfounded. You can't assume there's discipline. Either way, we can't tell you about any discipline. But we let them know either by email, or if they prefer, we'll send it to them in mail. We also offer them to come in and review any recordings we have after the investigation is finally complete. Probably only 50% of the time do they actually come in. They've calmed. They know everything's probably recorded. But we do offer that every time. You can either have a meeting with the investigating supervisor and me and review the body cameras, or we'll just send you the form letter, Mayor.
Gotcha.
Dave, Chief, your procedures have something extra for police and fire, and that is that you have a Civil Service Commission behind it. Civil Service Commission kind of sets the standard in the end. If you're going to discipline somebody, you end up there. At the same time, the state has, I mean, if you had a for-cause illegal activity by an officer, Civil Service Commission would probably defer to the Attorney General's office or the criminal investigation. But for the most part, if it's unbecoming conduct, civilian complaint about being mistreated or something like that, they're going to be back with you, but then they're going to be in front of civil service. That's different than the rest of our city employees, except for police and fire. So we still have our personnel manual and a personnel committee and procedures in there, besides our policies here. And the proof involved in these is a little more tricky by, I guess, the year, because of different things people do with social media now that aren't proof. But if you got 50 people in the community all complaining about something that happened over in the park, you're going to hear about it week after week for a while, or council meeting after council meeting, and it's probably not going to rise to the level of Civil Service Commission. It's going to rise to the level of whatever the common denominator is for most of the facts on social media. So if you exclude social media and you just follow the things you have in print, like clear policies about what's expected, a form that asks for things like detail your facts, plus detail what your expectation is. That coming to us as a group, we can administer self-discipline. We can also go through your Civil Service Commission if it's that kind of a situation, or we can use the state statute for cause for things that are serious enough to involve state attorney general or state law enforcement.
Yes, sir, that's correct. It's treated like any Miranda form when a citizen is being accused of a crime. They have all kinds of rights. A lot of times when we discipline an employee for minor things, we don't involve the personnel committee. It's just because we want them to have, if the employee wants to appeal our decisions as supervisor to FPD, they should have a fair and impartial personnel committee and a full council that hasn't heard all the details from me yet. If I tell you every detail of discipline, then it's not fair and impartial, and it's taking away one of their major steps. So a lot of the times it's minor stuff, but we're dealing with, and we let the employees know this is the discipline, and you have so many days to appeal to the city administrator. And if you don't like that, then you have so many days to appeal to personnel committee, and then the full council if you choose to go that route. So at that time, we would then supply with you with all the evidence. And so you would be the fair and impartial juror trying them before it goes to the court system. Too much information, right?
No, it's great.
John and I like federal and state laws, but there's a lot of them to remember.
Maybe we talked about this earlier, but what's the, why now? Why do this now? Is there a specific reason?
It's something that, so out in our hallway,
Yeah.
this was assigned to me probably a year ago, I would have said. And it was written, it was brought, and then it was deferred, and then it goes onto the board of all of the things that we need to address so that we keep circling back and that things don't get lost. And so this was one of those items that, as we move forward, the council has the ability to kill this and say, listen, we already have something in place, it works for us, we're not moving forward, or we need to have this, and we need to get some of these things in realignment. So this is one of those items that we picked off the board that needed to be addressed.
And would this be an item that we would share with our committees that are outside, who we consider volunteers, correct?
That's correct.
Our, I don't know, Beautification Commission, our Historic Preservation Commission, our Public Art Commission, right?
Yes.
So these are the things that they don't necessarily see our personnel handbook, so this would be something that they should know as well.
Yes, so like the old saying says, follow the money. Anytime that municipal funds are involved with anything that we do, this code of business conduct should follow that committee, whatever it may be, because anybody that comes and asks us for funds, we need to make sure that they know that these are our expectations and that this is how we behave in all matters, because it's not about who you know, it's about what you know.
So what about all the volunteers that Deb Williamson is bringing to an event? We don't have a record of who those people are. Are they municipal representatives when they're volunteering for the beautification committee?
Well, if it depends on whether if they're showing up with their own rake and a shovel and they're just doing weeds and what have you, but if they're using city equipment and they're, driving the municipal gator home to do gardening work, then that could be a potential conflict. So yes, that would be a part of the equation. it's something that I guess you could look at this some more and bring me, you can email me your edits and I can take those edits and rewrite this and bring it back and do it that way, if that's something that you would like to do.
Could you send it to us as a Word document?
Absolutely.
So let's take a couple weeks to review again. We can bring it back in August.
I think this is something at some point ought to be referred to the Personnel Committee.
Well,
review.
We already did
we did that and it
happened?
didn't get done. So it's back
Okay.
on the work session.
Okay.
So why don't we plan to put it to the last of August, the second meeting in August? That gives everybody a month, almost a month to review it. Does that sound good? And then if you have any suggestions, give them to Doug, and then we'll put it back on the agenda
And I
at the end of August.
I can do track changes and show you the track changes that I've done.
Study session or agenda?
Let's put it on the agenda. Alrighty. Any other comments, questions?
I wanted to answer. The other comment about, kind of why now, it's been brought up during our audit a couple times. We always have to be very careful when we're bidding things. And the example that Doug brought up about, a fireman having a tree business or something like that, that's a pretty obvious thing that we can see, their names on the side of their trailer. On the rentals or something like that, again, I've dealt with that's maybe a little harder, is where people might be part of an LLC or they're one person in a multiple partnership. And maybe they're not an active partner, but it is still a conflict of interest that we need to make sure that we don't have, that person doing the inspections or that we don't have them bidding that work. And a lot of our grants forbid any sort of interaction between the city employees and the city funds. So, the form that we had put together to draft this was very similar to what a bank board had used to disclose theirs, and it just includes anything that you have, public stock in or stock within the community and things that might have that conflict. Because even myself, I had kind of forgotten that I had stock in something that would have been a customer of that board. And so just things that until you're like, oh yeah, that would be a conflict of interest until you have to write it all down. And same with those people who are partners, maybe they're, they're a board member or they're a partner, and they're not as active as someone who's maybe mowing yards all the time, but it is still a legal conflict of interest.
Right, that's a law, though, right? I mean, so
They
so
should
really
be. They
just
should be disclosing it.
putting it down
Yes.
in our code of conduct so that everybody is aware that there is a law that they should be following.
They should be disclosing it anyway, but having a form where they disclose it once a year or every 2 years with the election cycle allows it, just, again, refreshing everyone of like, oh yes, or I've created a new LLC that now owns storage units or whatever it might be, that we can just make sure that those are, whether it's inspections or mowing or tree, whatever it might be, that we can keep those separated.
Okay, great. Okay, we got about 1 minute or 30 seconds till the meeting.
I'll just relax.
Okay.
Shut it off.
let's go ahead and get started. Bring the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Toohill,
Here.
Esti,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Here.
Gandy,
Yes.
Kness, Rowe.
Here.
Terry won't be here tonight. Oh, she did tell me she wouldn't be here tonight. Sorry. Okay, any changes to the agenda, council? Anybody have anything? Seeing none, I'll move to the consent agenda. Approval of the minutes of July 14th, 2025 council meeting. Approval of July 18th, 2025 payroll in the amount of $186,169.88. Acceptance of beautification commission minutes. Acceptance of library board minutes. Acceptance of the ad hoc committee Walton Lake project for 6/12/25 and 6/26/25. Approval of liquor license for Fairfield Golf and Country Club, Torino's Pizza and Steakhouse, and Jet Stop Fairfield LLC. Approval of ACH payment to Department of Revenue in the amount of $9,195. Approval of total claims in the amount of $561,170.30. We had 2 claims, more than $75,000, one to EBS for our health insurance claims, or premiums, for $78,917.77. And Murphy Tractor and Equipment for a loader of $227,728.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, moved by Esti,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any discussion?
I did review claims and everything seemed fine.
Okay. Any other comments? Not, please call the roll.
Esti,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Okay, under public forum and appearances, we have a request by a new business owner. Is that person here today? Sorry, I couldn't read the writing. Not sure. Okay, so they had a question, basically regarding commercial recycling. So I guess we'll see if they contact us again. Okay, let's move on to resolution action items and ordinances. The first action item, consideration of engagement agreement with Ahlers in connection with municipal water and sewer systems and user agreements. This is for future connections that are outside of our city limits, and that's in it in a nutshell. Do you want to add anything to that, Melanie? Or
This is for future connections that are outside of our city limits.
yeah, sometimes we do get requests to connect to city water, and
So yes, sometimes we get connections that they're outside the city limits. When they are adjacent to the city limits, we have them proceed with voluntary annexation. But when they're not directly adjacent to the city limits, we have them sign this user agreement that says when they do become adjacent to the city limits, that they will voluntary annex. We are just working on bringing that form up to current state laws and updating our procedures so that that form can remain valid and we have our procedures correct so that we, as we're working through Libertyville Road, we found that we needed to do things maybe a little bit differently than what we have been doing. So we want to make sure moving forward that any agreements we have, that their voluntary annexation agreement is valid through the future. So we're updating our procedures on that.
and goes a little bit smoother.
Or shorter, yeah.
And these connectors do pay for this, right? Pay for
Yeah.
the connection and pay for the water, correct?
Yes, yeah, so the out-of-town water and sewer rate is twice the in-town rate. And then their connection fee is also higher at the time. And so then, as far as then the annexation procedure, just, they pay for that as well if they are adjacent, so.
Great. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Gandy.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Flournoy.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
The next action item is to authorize the mayor to sign authority related to the Purdue direct settlement. This is an opioid, but by the way, I've gotten notification of 2 more opioid settlements, And the one that we have here today is related to Purdue Pharma. They filed bankruptcy back in 2019. And so this actually is with Purdue and the family that owns, that owned Purdue Pharma. It was called the Sackler family. And so they were both named in this lawsuit, and they are having to pay, you know, I thought I could put my fingers right on it. Let me see. Anyway, it's similar to the ones that we had before with all, you know, Walmart, CVS, Walgreens. Here it is. Sacklers will be paying an aggregate of $6.5 billion in 16 payments over 15 years, including $1.5 billion on the settlement's effective date. Purdue estate amounts available on the effective date expected to be around $900 million. So again, we should be getting more funds that will come to the county. So that's really what you're doing today, is authorizing me to go ahead and sign that we want to be part of this. And just as a side note, the next one, which should be pretty soon, because I got these, I don't know, maybe a week or two apart, is with some other pharma companies, basically. So I'll get that information to you when that comes. So this is just...
What's the amount of this settlement for the county of Vegetation?
I don't know. You just don't know. Do you know anything more about it?
I don't. I
Yeah.
know that the AG's offer, the state's going to be determining the allocation. I think that the state of Iowa is getting between 25 and 38 million dollars in this settlement, but I don't know how much is coming to.
Yeah.
That's in the first year.
Pardon?
Not in total, that's in the first year.
No, that's total.
At a $6.5 billion,
Yeah,
we're only gonna get 38 million.
I believe so. That's my understanding.
Seems small.
Yeah. Yeah, so so that's the scoop with that.
I make the motion that we authorize the mayor to sign this agreement.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to allow me to sign off on this related to this Purdue direct settlement opioid. And again, I just want to say, if people have ideas how to spend this money, the group is definitely looking for ideas. So we've got some good things coming up, but...
Is there a time limit on when it has to be spent, or?
No.
No. Nope.
Right now, the funds are just in interest-bearing accounts, and we get to keep the interest. And yeah, seriously, we don't know how much money we're gonna get.
That might be,
Yeah.
that might be the thing to do.
Yeah.
Perpetual
I'm not
use of.
advocating for that.
Okay, any other comments? Not, please call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Esti.
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Okay, next action item, consideration of request for permission to connect to the Fairfield Loop Trail. This is a use of easement. Go ahead, Melanie.
So we're looking for a motion to allow Martin Brett to utilize a portion of a city easement with the North Campus Ridge subdivision. They want to construct a 5-foot granular trail connection from the subdivision to the loop trail. On the last page of the attachment, there's a picture of what they have in mind. They have something similar installed at Granville. The proposed layout meets our ordinance 1095, which talks about site triangles, which is really set up more for if there was somebody putting a driveway in there, but the proposed location does meet all of those requirements. It also has support of MIU, who is the property owner in this location, and the Trails Council. So we'd be looking for council approval.
Okay, so when you say the sight lines kind of are similar to that of a driveway, is that what's referenced? I got confused in this first email because
Yes.
Stephen says at most this trail might be considered a driveway, so that's, but you're
Right.
talking about for sight lines.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Meaning that it would not impact the trail anymore, or as far as how he calculated how much of a site distance needed to be there, he treated it like a driveway.
Got it.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Esty, second by Flournoy. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Esty,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Gandy.
Yes.
Great, that was approved unanimously to
Sorry, I
make
didn't
that
get
connection
it.
to the trail. Thanks, Martin, for bringing that.
Pencil broken, it's fine.
Next is a resolution, consideration to appoint paying agent, note registrar, and transfer agent, approving the paying agent and note registrar and transfer agent agreement, and authorizing the execution of the agreement. It's clear as mud, right? So the way I understand this in layman's language is that this is the go-between between the city and UMB, our bank, where these loans are, related to the 8.3 million that we're just loaning for.
Yes.
Okay? So that's it in layman's language. Anything to add to that?
No, that's perfect.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Toohill. Any discussion? Not, please call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Toohill,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Esty.
Yes.
Thank you, that was approved unanimously. Okay. Next again is related, this next resolution is related again to the 8.3 million GO notes. And I'll read this. We do need to, again, put this in one motion. Consideration to approve and authorize a form of a loan agreement, authorizing and providing for the issuance and levying a tax to pay the notes, approval of the tax exemption certificate, and continuing disclosure certificate. So again, this is all kind of the detail of that $8.3 million loan that we're doing. Anything you want to add?
It's just all the red tape that goes with getting a note.
Move to approve resolution.
Okay, moved by Gandy,
Second.
second by Esty. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Gandy,
Yes.
Esty.
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Great, thank you, that's proved unanimously. Was that the last step in our borrowing? Is there any more steps coming forward?
That should be it, because we're gonna close on, coming up,
Coming up.
sorry.
Okay,
Forgot the date. I think it's August 12th or something.
okay, yeah. All righty, oh, wait a minute, it's on the other side. Okay. So now, we have a public hearing on the matter of a planned unit development rezone for North Campus Ridge. So I'm gonna open the public hearing, and do you wanna say anything, Martin? The planning and zoning recommendation, by the way, the minutes are there.
Right, this is about a year late because of some hiccups that happened in the annexation. So, been a lot of discussion about it, and I think at one point it was just clear that, we'd come in for a building permit, and it was like, well, you're not in the city, so the county said, we don't care. Anyway, so it's well underway. Everyone has has reviewed it in terms of it being a PUD that the planning and zoning accepted, plus it was the same as the last 5 PUDs we did in the North Campus Village. It's just one more. So we're looking to get the finalized.
Great. Anybody else want to speak to this? Not, I'll close the public hearing. And the next ordinance, this is the first reading. Consideration to rezone North Campus Ridge to planned unit development. This is, again, the first reading.
Make the motion to rezone North Campus Ridge to a planned unit development. Pass it from the first to the second reading.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Mr. Flournoy. Moved by Flournoy, second by Gandy.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Can you explain, or maybe Martin can explain, the advantages of being a planned unit development as opposed to not being a planned unit development?
Plan unit development rules are designed for when you're creating a neighborhood kind of with its own look and feel. And there's a minimum number of houses required and all that. And so you do things like there's a certain number of things in the subdivision rules that are flexible. And so one of those is setbacks. And so we're using 25-foot setbacks instead of 30 is normal?
Yeah.
And some road right-of-ways and some densities, lot sizes and things like that, which kind of work when you've got, a whole neighborhood that is being constructed this way. So you're not just imposing, you can't go into a neighborhood and say, with one lot and say, I want to have much less of a setback. And so the idea is if the neighborhood's going to have all these consistent features, then the city has the right to allow that under a planned unit development.
So that's why when you drive through North Campus Village, the roads look more narrow than other city streets because
That's
the
right.
rules are different in a PDU.
Yeah, right.
PUD.
PUD.
Yeah.
Or
got it.
DUP or. Okay,
We get it.
thank you.
You bet.
Great, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Go ahead and call the roll.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Esti,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Great, that was approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martin.
Thank you.
Ordinance 1268, a consideration of amendment to grass and vegetation. This is the second reading, so with that, I'll open the public hearing. Does anybody want to speak to that? No, nobody in the back row? Okay. Close the public hearing. And council?
And this, if I'm remembering correctly, we already passed this, but then you brought it back to council so that we could include the mailing as well. Okay.
Yep.
So I would move to, waive the third and final hearing, and suspend the rules.
Okay, is there a motion, a second to her motion to suspend the rules?
I'll second.
Okay,
Because this is actually the third time we brought it up, right? And the only change has been the mailing.
And we're actually going to increase the amount of notice that
Yeah.
people get from what we previously passed.
Right.
So
Yeah, there's no restrictions. So,
okay, so there's
Yep.
been a motion and a second to suspend the rules. So go ahead and call the roll.
Esti,
yes.
Toohill,
yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Okay,
And then move to approve it and publish
the
it,
third
right?
and final
Third
reading.
and final reading? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Second.
okay. Moved by SD, second by Flournoy, to have this be the third and final reading for ordinance 1268, the amendment to grass and vegetation ordinance. Any discussion on that further? Not, please call the roll.
Esti,
Yes.
Flournoy,
Yes.
Rowe,
Yes.
Gandy,
Yes.
Toohill.
Yes.
Alrighty. I don't have much into the mayor's report. Doug did report to me that all three adjacent buildings are for sale. If that's important to anybody. I think at some point we have to have a real discussion on kind of outgrowing City Hall, its functionality for our staff, what happens with the old fire station. I had mentioned to Doug, gee whiz, maybe we could turn that into City Hall, and where the old bay is, that could be the council chamber. Would things work? Anyway, just kind of conversation. This also, 3 places right next to us, is that a possibility? Do you want to send that as a discussion point to property committee, have them talk about it? I don't know where we get the money right now, but it's an FYI to see if you want to further discuss it
I mean, that's the
in any
issue,
way.
right? Where we get the money.
Right?
We should
Yeah.
send it on the property committee. They can discuss it.
They-
Hey, wait a minute. Hold a second.
Any thoughts, Matt? You act like you're going to say something.
Well, I would think that that sort of brainstorming activity could be something we move to before the next council meeting or the one after, right?
You mean on property or in work session?
No, it's a work session, right?
Just a work session?
We just sit around and talk about what we really need and
We want to tip our hand.
potentials.
Is chiropractic clinic listed right now?
That's my understanding, based on what Doug said.
I see. It's got a lot of compartmentalized, I'd call it office space. I've taken depositions in that building, and I know it's not bad space.
It would be helpful maybe, I don't,
least not initially.
maybe to have the property committee look at, like, first understand what we need, what the building is lacking currently. Might be nice to know. So I guess I would move my motion is to move that to property committee to consider additional space requirements.
Okay,
Second.
okay. Been moved and seconded to move it to property committee, talk about additional space requirements for City Hall. Could be part of the discussion. Okay. Any more discussion on that? All those, do I need to do a roll call?
You don't have a
No.
second yet, do you?
Yeah.
I
Stu Hill. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay.
Didn't you go on a tour last week with the former mayor?
Kading?
Yeah. Is that what we're talking about today or no?
Yes, but didn't Ed talk about that sometime? No?
I think you talked about it before it happened.
Okay, yeah, well, I can talk about that. So, Kading Properties is a company out of, I believe, Urbandale, around the Des Moines area, and what they do is they build rental units that are very well built. They build them to own and lease. They haven't ever sold any of their buildings. I think they're in about 23 communities throughout Iowa. And they had 7 representatives down here checking Fairfield out as a possible community. They have been getting a lot of requests from other communities for have them come into their community and build rental property. We're not alone. Everybody in Iowa needs more housing. So what they started doing last year was basically narrowing down 20 or 30 requests into 4, 5, 6 communities that they go and visit, and they've got their own little bus, and we were on the bus with them all day, and we showed them property. Potentially, they like to have at least 10 acres. Probably they're going to build at least 100 units, and they're pet friendly. Some of the interesting things that came out about that was that there was a question about senior housing, and they said that about 20% of the people who move into those rental units tend to be seniors. So that potentially opens up a home for a family if a
Is it
senior.
all single story?
Yes, primarily. They have had some townhomes that are 2-story, but primarily it's shared wall construction. Triplexes, 4plexes, some 6, I think. And we took them to several employers, Cambridge, Agra, Traffics. We went out to we swung by the child care center. We talked to the hospital. We went out by the hospital, the Marsden Barnes, and talked to a hospital representative. And it was interesting because every one of those employers said, 40% of our employees live in Fairfield. 60% live outside. Now, not everyone said exactly that, but there were similar stories. It was very clear that we have a lot of people coming in from out of the county to work here. Some people would move here if they could find the right housing. So it was a very interesting day. They were blown away with everything that's happening in Fairfield. We took them over to the Blue Rose Ballroom. So they're not only looking at just what are the assets we have physically, but socially, and they'll put in streets and sewer.
So is this a gated community?
No, I don't think they gate it, no. But it was interesting. They are very fastidious about what it looks like. They said, we would make sure there were no weeds in those cracks, different places that we went to. So just it seemed like a really good group, and you know, I'm hoping they consider us at some point.
You said they build to sell or just only rentals?
The lease, yeah, they're rentals.
But you used the word lease.
Yeah,
So
rentals. Yeah, yeah, they don't sell them.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I know last Friday Ed and I did the community dialogues. That's where we talked about it.
I see,
was like,
okay.
yeah, we already talked about this.
Okay, okay.
That's where we talked about it. Yeah, so that's what happened that day. It was a good day.
Yeah.
A very interesting group, and I'm hoping we get them at some point. Okay, that's all I have. City attorney report?
Yeah, a few things. The last 2 Sundays, Des Moines Register has had extensive, one of them was a 3-page article about what Des Moines has on the table for their housing shortage. Amazing how parallel we are. Everything that we're doing as far as our different programs here in the community, including infill housing, dilapidated housing, demolition, and that sort of thing, was right there in that article too, with how they're financing it. Yesterday's paper had Ames on a smaller scale describing the same experience. And they also were talking about what they're doing about nuisance and overhauling their nuisance ordinance, and amazingly, they're touching some of the same things that we are. And they also did some things that I thought paralleled us pretty nicely. They now have a full-time code compliance officer, and they are at a point right now where they've decided to beef up enforcement up there on things that have to do with citing people on violations on nuisance. Apparently, statistically, they've only been citing between 2 and 5% of the violators, and that's after the violators have been given warnings.
Well, they have one full-time code compliance officer. Their city is, what, 20 times our size?
That's the first code compliance officer they've had. They've just used people in the city staff to go out and do the enforcement stuff. So I guess it's a big deal to them to have a designated code enforcement officer. From what I can tell up there, they are years behind us on some of the things as far as going after nuisances like vegetation, things that have to do with unsafe sidewalks and things like that. They're just getting past the point of giving people multiple warnings and giving them citations. I think probably from our perspective, you're looking at, you just got done passing a revision to the ordinance that has to do with managing vegetation and cleaning up some of that as a nuisance. I think as far as our experience in our community, I think we've been reasonable with the public as far as our notices first, requests that they abate second, and citation third. We still have an awful lot of places that are overgrown, but it's the time of year when you can see that stuff and go out and tag it. And now we've got a red tagging system, and we've got a pay-as-you-get tagged system. So we have things, I think, that are a little bit ahead of some communities, as Paul points out, that are bigger than us and are just trying to get a handle on this also. There is a couple of things that we talked about a few months back that have to do with homelessness. And there's a lady named Rika Basu that is about a 25-year contributor to the editorial page that talks about problems with Iowans who really can't deal well with their housing shortages. And the problem she points out is that there's about 25% of the population that can't afford to live and provide their families with housing based on what their income is. And here in our community, I don't think that's too different. We've got, as far as a homelessness situation versus a cost difficulty situation, we have the same thing that the article points out around the state, that unless a family has at least into about the $45,000 income range for a family of spouses and 2 children, and goes up from there, they are going to have trouble with the average state rent of $950 plus a month. And I've checked with a couple realtors here in town. That is right on point as far as where we are in this community. And as far as people that are working poor, so to speak, as far as being able to afford the housing that we're able to offer them, I'm afraid that a lot of the housing that we see in our future as far as improved housing is probably going to be more expensive than that state average. So keeping them in mind also, I guess, is part of the problem. That we have, this article talks about ways that communities around the state are trying to bring some balance to this, and they're talking about LMI housing, infill, conversion of larger housing to multifamily housing, and then multifamily housing being built. That all being said, those all sound like things that we've been doing and we're looking forward to doing more of. One of the things that was noted in the article is the NIMBY factor. We've been there before and had that in some of the different structures around town where a neighborhood didn't like the idea of it being in their neighborhood. So the not in my backyard sentiment is something that is mostly attitudinal. It's not something you're going to be able to legislate about, but it is a problem around the state. So at the same time that that's going on, what I talked to you about before as far as this homelessness thing, and then I think the next week we had a gentleman that came in and told us about all of the different programs and things that are available to help people that are living on a shoestring. At the same time, the U.S. Supreme Court passed a case called Grants Pass, Oregon, which upheld the ability of the town to have misdemeanor penalties associated with economic status. And basically, that town had a vagrancy ordinance, and it allowed them to basically detain, remove, and impose penalties for homelessness status, as long as it wasn't based on homelessness status. If it was based on public health or public safety concerns, then there could be a justification in the town's ordinance. Since that time, there have been about 300 attempts to legislate in that area in different communities around the country. About 200 of them have already been challenged and upheld if they're done with that background of public health or public safety justifications. That means about 100 of them weren't found to be that way, and that's probably the way things are going to shake out in the future also. Not to be left behind on this Grants Pass question, because we haven't taken it on our table yet as far as whether we want to have a vagrancy ordinance. We deal with our situations with rundown housing and housing where we have to basically evict people with our nuisance ordinances and our half a dozen different methods of enforcement there. But the White House, in the meantime, adopted a new executive order called Ending Crime and Disorder on American Streets. And much of the context from that is from a part of something called the 2025 Project Cicero Institute Anti-Homeless Vagrancy Report. And essentially what that did is indicate that there are ways to fix this. I'm not sure there are ways that we're going to like very much in this town because we've taken a fairly compassionate position as far as people that end up in the homeless box. The new executive order basically says that there's about 300,000 that are determined to be permanently homeless in the United States. That's about 20% of what other studies have said about it, and that doesn't include people that are living in cars, people that are living on couches, and people that are backpack surfing around their communities. The recommendations under this executive order are they don't do anything about funding for LMI housing, nothing about funding for shelters, but it says basically in highlights, round up and detain long-term commitments for mental health, for substance abuse, for jail if necessary, for rehabilitation visits. It's based on an assumption that over half of the homeless are either mentally ill or addicted to substances. The other part of it that's more troubling is if your community is under-equipped, then you should turn to alternative detention facilities. Now, we're in a part of the state where our mental health facilities don't exist anymore, and 2 of the 4 quadrants of the state have to rely on the northern parts or send people to Sioux Falls if there's a bed. So we've got a problem as far as being one of those areas where we are under-equipped to do what this says. And as far as where we go next as far as alternative detention facilities, I know that their report about this executive order was talking about where will the next alligator Alcatraz be found in Iowa. I don't think that's going to happen in Iowa, but I do think that as far as mental health, dealing with some of our homeless probably is an issue. As far as drug addiction, it's halfway invisible as far as how we're going to deal with that part of the homeless aspect. But these are things probably that if we're going to discuss this grants pass case as a reason to have an ordinance at some point that deals with everything from the homeless and the options that otherwise exist through the charitable groups in the community, are we also going to have something that deals with enforcement against vagrancy and whether we use standards that have to do with public health and our public safety, or whether we do something that is in between, or whether we even address it. So,
John, don't we have something in our code that talks about homeless can't, make camps in our city parks and stuff?
right,
Where is that in our code?
We've got a part in our code that you get back to something we did back when there was an MIU movement that was contra campus, and they had a tent city up on New Chicago area, and we basically we have some limitations. I don't know that I could cite it off the top of my head, but we have some limitations on how long you can temporarily have something where you would live in it, like a tent.
So it's not any vagrancy.
No, we don't
Ordinance.
have
Yeah.
the word vagrancy.
Especially in
Yeah.
Iowa, we encourage camping. We don't have any per se. All our parks are closed for everybody from 10 at night to 6 in the
Right.
morning, which eliminates the problem. And we do have officers patrolling and a lot of dealing drugs and fights in the parks after hours. So we enforce those quite a bit. If there are homeless, if they see the squad car coming, they run off. And to the woods, we hardly ever deal with homeless because of the park hours.
Gotcha. Yeah. Just one more question, John, from regarding housing. Is anybody doing anything about, just vacant homes throughout their cities?
We've got, right now, I have 4 houses that we're searching as far as creditor problems. 2 of them want to sign over to the city. 2 of them we're probably going to 657A because they deserve it. Other than those and possible infills there, you can't drive around without seeing some other houses that are overgrown with vegetation and so forth. They haven't been cited, to my knowledge, but taking a little bit at a time. If we can develop those that I think will be infill sites and get that done this summer, that's probably a good piece of work. As far as I know, the infill activity and interest over at a group like Fairfield FIDA is probably going to be about saturated if they can do that many things besides what they've already got on the table for that kind of work. Other than the Sunrise Trail, I don't see an LMI solution down there.
Well, I bring up the question because I do know of a couple of houses that are just empty. They keep the grass mowed, but they're just empty, and it would be a really nice family house. So, Melanie, you want to talk about that?
Sure.
So I keep the memo that sent out with budget time about potential revenue sources. I keep it in the front of my folder for council meetings. So number 1 on the list was vacant building registration. A lot of cities do this. When we were looking, not just for revenue sources, but just into other cities' fees, a lot of cities have it. At the different cities that we looked at, I mean, the cities that I just listed here, Ottumwa, Oskaloosa, Fort Madison, Washington, all have vacant building registration. Fees range from $25 to $250 per building per year. I believe it's Oskaloosa has a they have to insure the building and prove that as part of their registration. And it's $1,000 per building per month if it's not insured. And so there's a lot of different ways they do it. When we were looking again at different fees, false alarm calls or different types of police calls, charging people for those types of things when a building is not being occupied or managed well. A lot of those things have been outlawed by state code. But as of this point, knock on wood, vacant building registration has not been outlawed by state code. The other thing that's kind of variable is, right now our code defines a vacant building as something that does not have water, sewer, or electricity. But these other cities, it can vary. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. I will say that, again, based off of our estimate in February, we figured around 72 buildings that met the water, sewer, and electricity requirement. Those are just based off of, I guess, people who have had water accounts within the last 10 years.
Okay.
One of the enforcement standards, Melanie, is some towns have a distinctive description called abandoned building compared to vacant buildings.
That's true.
The abandoned buildings are the ones that don't have the facilities and utilities.
Okay.
But I would guess that probably half of your list is buildings that don't have city services right now.
Yeah.
And they get distinguished from what I call snowbird buildings, where somebody's gone 5 months and then they come back and it's perfectly livable.
Yeah.
So those really aren't part of the housing stock for anybody else to use.
Correct.
But I agree, we've got a bunch of vacants.
And so I assume that a lot of people, after several years, we're seeing movement in the one on the corner of 9th and Burlington, but across from the rec center. But, so by having a registration fee sometimes that will offset a business's reason to keep it vacant, or tax write-off or whatever reason that someone might be having for keeping it vacant, not trying to get someone in there. Sometimes the fees can encourage that. Again, if you have like an out-of-town landlord that's not pushing very hard to get that building occupied, some cities just use it as a way to encourage those people to either do something with it or get it off of their books and get it to someone who's going to do something with it. Or
If we move forward that, would you want the Ways and Means Committee to look at that based on, it's definitely has a money component here.
yeah, and I guess I don't know. I can, John. I don't know, and Rebecca, I don't know if the Planning and Zoning Commission would have to look at this. I don't think so, because it wouldn't necessarily be under that section of the code.
That would be where it would depend where we're going to.
Yeah, it would depend on what section of the code we set do, but I think Ways and
in any
Means,
district.
making that,
Yeah.
I think the real question is, making that definition of what's gonna fall into this, and then are we, are we on a smaller, this lower end of 25, or are we on the higher end? Like I said, the few cities that we looked at with back in February, Ottumwa, Oskaloosa, Fort Madison, Washington, all had examples that we can look at.
And maybe we need a better understanding of the 72 buildings you've identified, in what category they're in.
Right. Yeah, and we can do that. We can look through that, whether it's Ways and Means or how we want to move forward, or again a work session. Bring something forward to discuss a little bit more, kind of some back and forth with different ideas that people have.
Okay.
Yeah.
When do you feel like you could be ready to bring it back to work session and have a little study just to get started? And then
If you just want information on the 72 buildings, I think we could have that by the next meeting. As far as finding the other cities' ordinances, getting the useful information out of the other cities' ordinances, maybe we'd want a little bit more time, but I think we could get information, maybe not on all 72, but we could start to get a summary of those houses.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when Shelby pulled those numbers, if she saved them, but we could start to pull that again.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. Anything else,
That's all
John?
No, that's
Oh, okay.
that's all I had.
Committee and board reports.
Okay, so minutes of the first few meetings were attached to the agenda, and I don't have anything else to report.
Okay. Any questions for Doug or Matt?
I had one question just because I was reviewing I think it was the most recent minutes, and I guess I was wondering, are there questions that arise that then you guys will answer for community members, or is it just also a time for them to kind of talk about, because I don't know, I saw some information in some of the minutes and I thought, well, that's not accurate, and so I just didn't know, is the purpose to just let community members like vent and just say whatever they want, or is there any kind of do you shape the discussion, or correct any of the misinformation, or?
Yes,
Okay.
and so a couple times questions have come up which I don't have the answer to, so I'll have to go do some research and bring it back and clarify.
Okay.
And so I would address that particular question if you could tell me what it was, but.
Okay. Yeah. I
Sure.
will. I'll let you know.
Alrighty, anything else? Okay, administrator and department reports.
A few things to point out here. On step 4, this sanitary sewer conveyance over on the west side of town. French Reniker's working on the preliminary layout. The Phase 1 environmental work has, the field work's been done. What we'll be looking at in the next couple weeks, I don't think we'll have it before the next council meeting, but we will have it hopefully within the next month, is a public meeting on that preliminary layout. It's typically part of our process for
Someone made that comment.
obtaining easements, but we'll be looking to, I'll send it out to the property owners that are affected. We'll get a letter, and then we'll notify you guys and the general public as well. On Sunrise Trail, I believe just that Fight Excavating moved some equipment in today. If it ever stops raining, they will start work on some storm sewer, and then we'll finalize that easement agreement with the Simons that came in front of council a few weeks ago. The other thing I wanted to point out is if you've been up to City Hall over the last couple weeks, we've got a high school student working in the old conference room, Carolyn Van Pelt. She's been a great help, been working on the city's mapping, getting stuff put into the GIS software. When I was on vacation over the last week, she did some field trips, and so at the very end of my report is a little memo she put together on the different places that she went to and the things she learned. She went with the sewer department cleaning sewers one day, and she went surveying on step 4, and she went to the airport. So she was out in the field quite a bit in all that heat, and she still came back to work this week. So we really appreciate her, and I just encourage you to read it because it's great to see her enthusiasm and all the things that she's been learning. And I really appreciate our employees for taking the time to teach her some things as well. Again, while I was on vacation, it allowed her to do something other than just sit at her computer while there was no one really to answer any questions for her. So just wanted to point that out to council.
Great, thank you. Mr. Rayner?
Well, I wanted to say that I was told the last day of the outdoor pool being open is August 24th. The summer has gone by extremely quickly, and there has been some questions about city employees in the middle of the street didn't know what they were doing, so I started making phone calls, and we are actually cleaning and jetting sewers, and the sewer department goes through 1/4 of the city per year, and that's what they're working on one of the quadrants of the city and cleaning things out. And I wanted to say that the 23-24 audit is back. I was pleased with it. However, again, we always have some exceptions because we are small, and things that we were addressing at the study session helps us with these audits, and they'll be here in September to start working on the 24-25. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Aren't they going to come and give the report to the council like they have in the past?
Next month.
Next month? Okay. Great.
That's it for
Did
questions.
we get a link to that audit?
No, I was going to email that out.
We get hard copies.
I can print that out.
30 cents.
I prefer a hard copy.
It is.
What's that?
30 cents a page.
Okay.
We'll just take it out of your salary. You won't have anything left. All right, is that it?
It's worth twice that much.
You heard him, saw him twice.
All right, nothing else. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Toohill,
Second.
second by Esti.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Great, thank you. Meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody, for your time.
Wouldn't that be horrible?